Hello, good people of the internet. My name's Andy, and you're watching Geek Curio. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. For those of you who have seen my Airbrush series, you may remember this young lady, Harley Quinn, who I started painting a good few weeks ago. Now, since then, she's been sitting on a shelf and we haven't actually done anything else with her. So today, we're going to start painting her hair. Now, she has taken a little bit of damage where the paint has rubbed off since I last looked at it. So I'm going to tidy that up first, and then I'm going to use something to try and protect the paint, as I'm going to be masking the areas again. And the areas that I'm going to be masking have already seen quite a bit of paint on them. So in order to do the blonde hair for this, I'm going to use some Citadel paints for the airbrush. We're going to start off with a base of Xandri dust, and then we're going to move on to Seraphim Sepia as a wash. I'm not too sure whether I'm going to be using this through the airbrush or if I'm going to be using the paintbrush on this. We're going to see how it comes out with the Xandri dust first. And finally, I'm going to be doing a highlight of Ushabti Bone. Again, probably going to be doing this for the airbrush using the zenithal highlighting technique, but I'd like to see how the Xandri dust and the wash settle on the hair first. Now, before we start, as we know, we've already laid some inks down on the model. And what I'm worried about is when I start masking, putting the blue tack on, I'm going to end up pulling that ink and paint straight off the model. Normally I would use some sort of varnish in order to protect the paint, but as we're in the middle of a lockdown and I am also a cheapskate, I'm going to be using hairspray instead. The way that I found this out was basically when I was doing the hairspray and salt technique on some predator tanks that I did a few years back, where I wanted to try and get a rust and beaten look on metal. I used hairspray and salt to get that effect. And hairspray does do quite a good job of protecting the paint, so I'm going to use it for now. We will be doing a wash on the main body and the face, and also a lot more highlighting as well, but at the moment we don't want to lose all the work that we've already done. So once we've finished coating and protecting the model, we're going to start working on creating a mask. Now, it's only the hair that we're going to be using. I've already flattened out some blue tack, and what I'm going to do is start putting it all over the model. Not necessarily all over, because like I say, I'm only concentrating on one area, but just want to make sure that I don't hit anything that I don't want to. So I will be covering up the face, the chest, and the back as well. And I'll do that off camera, and I'll see you in a bit. As you can see, I have put a mask on Harley Quinn. I've only done the top half of the body. However, I will probably be covering up most of this with my hand, or possibly leftover bits of a glove. I didn't want to be putting too much blue tack on the model. As you can see, only the hair is exposed. There are a few areas that I'm starting to notice now that could be better done. But let's start mixing the paint. So as usual, I'm going to be starting by using the airbrush thinner first. And then I'm going to be mixing some Xandri dust in as well. Don't forget to always give your paints a good shake. Right, my paint is all mixed, so let's start spraying. Right, so we finished putting the base colour on, and I'm quite happy with the result. This was actually achieved using a very thin Xandri dust, as I realised I was actually coming to the bottom of my bottle and the paint had actually thickened up quite a bit. But the thing that I love about using the airbrush for base coating is that you can get a really nice, smooth, uniform finish. Also, you can use the airbrush to dry the paint as well, which is what I was doing throughout the spray. I like how we also still have some of the shadows in there. It's not too obvious, because, like I say, Xantry Dust is quite, well, it's a base paint, so it's a lot thicker than a lot of other paints. But I think I'm going to use the wash through the airbrush as well. And the reason for that is just to let it all soak over and soak in so we can get those really dark tones in there as well. Now, the problem with using the washes through the airbrush is it pretty much comes out like a mist. So what I tend to do when I'm doing this is I use a very small amount, and I also spray at quite a distance. So I'm just going to give that a quick test first. Yeah, so it's very much like a mist. So I've got quite a bit of the model showing actually, so I'm going to try and cover it up with my glove part of the hand, and I'm just going to spray in a zonical way all over the middle. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. What it's done, putting the wash through the airbrush, it's kind of more created a glaze effect. So rather than it filling into the gaps, it's basically glazed some of the higher parts. So I think really what I want to be doing is possibly using it at the lower points of the model, so possibly towards the tips. But to be honest with you, I'm actually quite happy with the result. It has run off as it would normally do. If you ever use a wash using a brush, you know it can pretty much get everywhere. But like I say, it's kind of created a glaze effect, which is pretty okay. I think what I will do is after I've done the highlight, I probably will go over with a brush and put the wash on there again, just to get in those recessed areas, some more of a recessed shade. Okay, so next up it's going to be doing the highlight, which is going to be done with Ushanti Bone. So what I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to be doing a light dusting from above, and possibly also the, so I'm going to be hitting it at lots of different angles to try and catch the edges of the hair. So for the highlights I'm going to be using Citadel's Ushanti Bone. Now this is an air paint, so I should be able to use this straight out of the pot. So I'm just going to pour some into the airbrush, and what I'll do, I'll just check to see if it's going to flow quite well. I've got a feeling it will because the consistency looks quite good in this. It's actually a little bit thick to what I would normally do. No, that's actually flowing quite well. Okay, so rather than actually spraying over the whole model, this will be dusting at certain angles. Once again, we're trying to catch the raised areas. And also we've got to think about the zenithal highlighting, so we're going to be hitting at this sort of an angle. Remember, it's just dusting this time. I think I'm going to add some water instead. It's a little bit speckly. So I went with just water there rather than actual airbrush thinner. I'd say it's good news and bad news as to how this turned out. On the good news, I'm quite happy with the level of blonde that we got. I thought initially when I was looking at the research photos of Margot Robbie that I wouldn't be able to achieve that platinum blonde look, and in all fairness I haven't. But it is a lot lighter than what I thought it would come out, so I'm quite happy that it's come out like this. On the bad side, we've lost the wash basically. It's literally a pointless exercise doing it at that point. And I think what I'll do is I'll do a recess wash, although not as dark with this, but I think I'll probably water this down or add some medium to it in order to get some recess wash into the between the hair strands. But other than that, I mean, the shadows are looking pretty much all right. I don't know whether it's because I got a light shining down on this, it looks better than it might do, but no, I'm quite happy with that. I think we've got the a good base, and you can see it's quite dark at the bottom, but I think we'll know for sure once we start taking the blue tack off. Now that we've removed the mask, we can see that the hairspray actually did the job that it's intended. In fact, there was bits of blue tack that was stuck on the model, and I can easily just use the blue tack again to peel them off, and the paint underneath has not been touched at all, which is fantastic news. I think what we'll do next is, I think that's going to be all the airbrushing this model's going to be needing now. Everything else is going to be a combination of brushwork, washes, and some edge highlights. That's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care and stay safe.